Hello, I am Mr. Gavin with Museo Art Academy, and this is part 3 for our Intro to Digital Illustration series. If you did not watch part 1 or part 2, definitely stop the video and go check those out before you dive here, because this is a continuation of those previous lessons. So this is your first time ever playing with Sketchbook. You might have a lot of difficulty kind of navigating around, so definitely pause the video and go back into those ones. Additionally, if you are working on the iPad or a tablet, this is for the computer, and we have a separate series for tablets. So stop this video and go to those ones as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Today, for lesson 3, you will be playing specifically with brushes. Last time we learned how to navigate with Sketchbook, and then we specifically focused on layers, and now we will specifically play with brushes. Now, the option to play with brushes is so large and has so much opportunity that perhaps you might want to play with a different brush than what I will showcase with you today, which is totally fine. You know, there are so many different brushes that do different things similarly that if you find one that's more comfortable for you, by all means, go ahead. Okay. What you will need is your computer and a stylus to draw with. All right. And we'll talk about what brushes are. We'll explore the brush library, and we'll learn how to create a fur texture, a simple little fur texture just to get you started. Okay. Here's a little image of a fur texture. Now, we're not going to create this like exactly the same, nor are we going to try to imitate it and get all the little bristles of hair or whatnot. We just want to get the general movement and figure out what brushes can help us achieve that goal, rather than taking an individual brushstroke and repeatedly doing each and every individual hair. Now, there are brushes in there that's going to help us speed the process along, and that's why we're here, and that's what we're going to discover. All right, so let's go ahead, dive right in. Let's take a look. Alrighty, let's see. Hopefully you have your project open. As always, I like to zoom out a little bit just so I can see the border of my project. Today won't be too bad. We're just going to do a little quick first sample and explore the brush options that we have. All right. Now, this on the left-hand side is your brush library, which it holds all the different kind of brushes to your advantage and to your utility. There are, let's see, 13 different kind of brushes right here, including erasers. And those aren't the only brushes that you have at your disposal. Now, we knew and learned what this icon was, where whatever brush we had selected, it also allowed us to change the function and open that same window right here, rather than double clicking the selected brush. Now, this icon on the right is the entire brush library the Sketchbook has to offer. You see them all? Very numerous. Okay. So we're not going to go to each and every individual one, but I'll do a quick little sample so you can kind of see. They have Copic brushes. Oh, sorry, my color is white. You can't see the difference. They have Copic brushes. They have synthetic paint brushes, like so. See that? It's a lot different. See how it's like blending into itself? Yeah. Some brushes, if not all the brushes, have different functions from each other. So with our inking pen, we saw that it had a size and opacity setting. Some of these brushes have different settings because they're a different type of brush. Now, you see how these brushes are in its own category, therefore it has different functions. So instead of opacity, it has flow and strength. So it's almost like opacity split into two different little sliding bars. See that? Very cool. Looks like a pretty good hairbrush. Yeah. We're not going to choose that one off the bat. We're going to explore a little bit more, right? So as you can see, all these brushes pretty much add a nice blending effect to whatever color you add on. So if I repeatedly let go, then I'll get more color. But if I hold down the whole time, then it's just going to start blending everything. All right. You have traditional drawing utensils, your paintbrush, your pencils. Okay, you have textured brushes, hatching, thorny. Those are pretty cool. You have shapes, feathery. Ooh, looks like it's adding a feather texture. Pretty neat. Splatter, adding little paint splotches here and there. Smudging tools just to kind of smudge things around, which is pretty nice. Very cool. Artist. Oh, look, a brush for hair. And what we're going to use today as well. Okay. Very nice. Okay. Enough exploring. If you want to continue to explore, like if you're on a roll and you want to keep exploring, just pause the video, explore until you get tired, and then restart the video and we're going to move on. Alrighty. So I'm going to get rid of all these little practice samples. So I'm just going to go right here, hit clear, kind of clear up our screen. And to start off our little hair demo, first we're going to cover our layer in a base color. So I'm going to select orange, and I'm just going to go to a nice muted brown right here. Okay. Hit the paint bucket tool, fill everything in. Like so. All right. Then I'm going to select a lighter color, slightly lighter. So. And I'm going to use the marker this time. Okay. I'm going to bring up the size of the marker. Let's test it out, see how big it is. Like slightly there. I think it's because it's blending actually. I'm going to choose a different brush. Ah, that's better. Let's go with a chisel tip pen. Okay. Bring up the size. And with the lighter brown color, let's go ahead and do a couple of little brush strokes here and there. Like that. So we're getting the general movement of some fur. And, you know, obviously this doesn't look like fur, but we're going to use some brushes and we're going to blend it out. Okay. So we don't need to cover everything. We just need to cover a small area. So with these chisel tip pen marks, we've laid out the general movement that we want the fur to be in. And then we're going to slowly add in detail and blend it out to really pull the texture across. So now we're going to go to our marker, which has a nice little blending effect into it. So if I go over some of these areas, it slightly adds in a lighter transition between them. Doesn't add too big of an effect, but it will matter later on. Add that in here and there. Okay, there we go. Don't have to do too much. Now, the reason these 13 brushes are here always is they're just like a nice little variety pack of different brushes to utilize in case, you know, it's too much to go back in for the more specific brushes. So there's a lot of art you can make with just these 13 brushes. And all these other ones here are to fit more specific needs, like right now where we're trying to make hair or fur texture. So the brush we're going to go to is located under synthetic paint. And we're going to choose the synthetic bristle round. Now, the reason we want to go through the synthetic paint brushes right now is on top of adding the color, it also adds a blending effect. So like I said earlier, we want to blend these lines a little bit. So with synthetic bristle round chosen, I'm going to go to the ends and I'm going to start blending these shapes out like so. Just to kind of get this fur texture out. So, see that? Very nice. Look at that. Slowly blending everything out. They're just going back and forth, you know, going up, going down, just covering any areas with really sharp lines. That's all we really want. Okay, now everything is just two colors right now, so there's not too much resemblance of fur quite just yet. I mean, it has the texture, but we do want to capture some of the color a little bit more. And with more color, it definitely is easier to kind of see how these brushes work. So let's go ahead and select a slightly lighter brown and then add that in some areas on top like that. You can see. Now you see it's like adding a new dimension into it. Okay. And kind of go wild with it. You know, fur is fur. There's no like a lot of order within how they're arranged. It's more about the movement. And with this fur, you know, they're all moving in a similar pattern. So that's something you want to capture. Okay. Let's select a darker brown and add it in some areas for more dynamic colorization. Kind of pull the lights across and the shadows further, you know. And it's okay if it looks a little bit patchy. We're going to use a different brush to really blend it even further. Now, the synthetic paints not only adds color, but it also blends. And the next brush that we're going to use specifically just blends. So it's okay if it looks a little patchy. Next time. Okay. Make some even darker areas. Like so. Oops. Okay. Make some even lighter areas. Here. Okay. Now, the brush that we're going to select next is under Artist, and it is this one right here. This is the hair brush. And this is specific for blending. So if I go over some of our areas, you'll notice how some areas are blending together, like so. Now you don't want to go over everything, otherwise everything's going to come off really soft and blended together. You just want to use it in some areas where you feel like some of the lines are a little bit too harsh from the synthetic bristle round. Fur texture. Okay. And then you can go back and forth, or perhaps you can select a different brush. So I'm going to go back into my synthetic bristle round, and I'm going to reapply some of these colors in some areas. Because what the synthetic bristle round does, it has more defined lines, while the hairbrush blends out these lines to get the general movement. So if I layer these on top of each other, I get the best of both worlds, which is really nice. Now keep in mind, in Sketchbook, even though they're not all technically brushes, we use the term brushes to define what exactly this tool is in Sketchbook. These brushes include pencil brushes, erasers, paint brushes, markers, what have you, everything. Just adding more hair textures here and there. Just kind of going around. There's no particular order that I'm trying to do this in. I'm just seeing some foggy, blurry areas, and I'm just adding more definition where I think it might work. Okay. Once you are done, just kind of zoom out of your project to kind of take a look at it from further away and see if it transforms more into a fur texture. Because obviously when you look really close, you can see the brush strokes, but if you zoom out a little bit, you kind of get to see the whole picture. That's pretty nice. I like that. All right. Now, obviously, oops. Obviously, there are many different kinds of projects we can do to explore different kinds of brushes, but we would be here all day. So here is one small sample of utilizing different kinds of brushes to achieve the same goal. So if there are other projects that you want to do, perhaps you're doing like traditional art or you're trying to draw from realism, observational art, cartoons, find a set of brushes that work for you to achieve the goal that you want. All right. So, creating fur texture, if you didn't know about the synthetic paintbrush or the artist's hairbrush, now you know, so you can kind of tackle creating textures in the future in a much more easier manner. All right. So, congratulations. Good job. All right, so you just finished exploring and playing around, kind of getting the general idea of utilizing the brushes in Sketchbook to create a fur texture. So that will wrap up our 3-part lesson series for Intro to Digital Illustration. Thank you for joining me and give yourself a round of applause. Good work. I hope that Sketchbook makes a little bit more sense for you and you transition well and easy into our digital illustration classes. Depending on your age group, you'll join our 9 through 12 class or our teen group. All right. So I hope you enjoyed your time. I'm Mr. Gavin. It has been a pleasure, and I will see you around. Have a good one.